Welcome to Truth Transforms. My name's Adam Markley. The goal of Truth Transforms is to transform hearts and transform minds through the truth of God's Word. If you're looking for a resource of biblical preaching and teaching, along with cultural commentary and discernment teaching, you might consider taking a look around the YouTube channel, and if you like what you see, you might consider subscribing. The title of today's program is The SBC Doesn't Really Have a Problem. Do they? They don't really have a problem, do they? That's based off of a Facebook group that I joined just to share the link of these sort of podcasts in. And the title of that group is SBC Issues and Ministry Q&A Group. And I feel like I get an idea of how those in the SBC think about things. There's a lot of denial as to what's going on. There's a lot of not wanting to really accept the truth, and I thought I'd just share an interaction that I had, because you have people, you have SBC elites, and you have others high up in the SBC, of course, denying any sort of liberal drift, and you're going to get that throughout. You're going to have people that say, well, there's really not a problem in the SBC at all, and well, I don't deny that there are many faithful SBC churches, I'm sure. The reality is that you have a culture that is forced down, top down, because you have your national association, your SBC elites, your seminaries, and then you're going to have your local associations, and they all have initiatives that are given to them, and those initiatives are then brought down to each local level, regional level, forced upon the churches, and you're either going to step in line or not. And so it absolutely matters what's happening with all of the SBC entities. And so the issue is the SBC as an organization, the entities, is where the problem is. But you definitely do have a denial of that problem, and that's what you see going on in many churches. And so, one, people need informed. Pastors need to inform their congregations. And what's happening is a lot of pastors just kind of want to keep the congregations out of this. They want to pretend like nothing's happening, and also think that no one in their congregation knows what's going on. And although that may be true by and large, especially with an older congregation, it's not going to be true everywhere. And They don't want to rock the boat. That's the bottom line. They don't want to rock the boat. They just they fear man more than they fear God. They don't feel like it's an obligation to tell their congregation what's going on in the denomination. I mean, had they been doing this years ago, they would be in more of a position to actually have a discussion with church leadership, with elders or deacons or whatever the church has as a governing board. It should be elders, but whatever the church has as a governing board, they'd be more in a position to discuss whether they should be staying in the denomination to fight against things, whether they should be leaving, whether they should be disconnecting. But the reality is, in most SBC churches, that I've seen based on observation, and I've seen a fair amount of that, you have just kind of this, we love the SBC, we love everything about the SBC, we speak positively about everything that's going on in the SBC. Hey, we're taking up this offering and that offering, and hey, this cooperative program, that's how we send out our missionaries, because the SBC is a wonderful missionary organization, and they have no clue. It's either ignorance or apathy that's driving them to just continue to speak positively about the SBC and not address the issues that are going on. And so they either feel like they can hide as a small church, or they can just completely ignore the problem, which I guess is hiding. So I just thought I would share an interaction, because I spent a fair time responding to this guy and thought it was worth making a podcast on. So here's what I shared in this SBC group. And I wrote a little something with the YouTube link that I put in there. It says, here's the interaction between the messengers and the ERLC regarding abortion bans and the equal protection of the unborn. May God bless your efforts if you want to fight to turn things around in this denomination, but I think it's far past that time to lead your congregations out of it. I would really like to see Tom Ascol and Founders Ministry lead the charge out of the SBC and form a network or denomination. I would also like to see them equip pastors in leading their congregations out of the denomination. Every SBC entity has been taken over by liberals, and it's only going to get worse. It's time to build on a new foundation. And so, and varying reactions on that. First comment, did you make this video? Yep, that's my video. So here's what that guy came back and said. He said, I disagree strongly with the content, which, by the way, this isn't a public, this is a public group. So that means that there's nothing private in this group. And I blocked out the name because I don't think it's necessary to share the guy's name. But there wouldn't be anything wrong if I did, because it's a public group. But it doesn't seem necessary or appropriate, so I crossed out his name. But I disagree strongly with the content of the video, he says, and the slant on the SBC. The SBC stands where the messengers stand. The entire 55-minute presentation of the ERLC described a pro-life ethic and protection for the unborn. Leatherwood said the letter was not aimed at the Louisianna bill. I've asked widely for evidence that this letter hurt the bill and haven't seen any. More than welcome to review and willing to be proved wrong. Which I didn't get into that in my response because that wasn't the major issue. But it was a 7-3 vote, I believe, that would have sent it to the Louisiana House. And it most definitely was going to pass before the ERLC joined all of the other pro-life organizations, quote-unquote pro-life, to say, we don't want you to sign that bill. Things have changed now, I'm sure, with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. But anyway, at least in many other states. Moving on, where was he at? More than welcome to review and willing to be proved wrong. Regarding conservatives getting microphones, mic time is doled out on the basis of the schedule. The men who questioned weren't rushed and didn't need to fight to get there. Kevin Smith clearly said abortion is murder. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. In the midst of being set up for the next question. Like, if abortion is murder, then obviously it should be criminalized, right? It's like they didn't even understand. He didn't even understand why he was being asked that. He couldn't make the connection between the fact that abortion is murder, so then therefore it should be charged as murder. Moving on. It's not just the matter of the platform versus the messengers. The messengers voted overwhelmingly to retain the ERLC and are also overwhelmingly pro-life. Regarding the Equal Protection Resolution, the messengers did not vote to bring it out. The Resolutions Committee produced a resolution on the Dobbs decision. A resolution can be brought out of committee if the votes are there. In fact, last year, Bill Ascol, who worked on the resolution you're talking about, managed to bring a resolution out of committee by a floor vote. It just didn't happen. The CRT thing is dead. Resolution 9 is a non-issue. The SBC isn't woke. The messengers aren't woke. I doubt you'll agree, but the room was filled with people that love God, that aren't fully on board with the commitments of the abolitionist position. Saying the SBC has swung to the hard left is ludicrous. And that's the kind of thing that you're gonna get. That's why I'm doing a podcast on this in particular, just because I think this demonstrates the way many people think in the SBC. They really don't think that there's a problem. And because they don't think that there's a problem, they don't think that there's a battle going on. Well, anyway, my response. It's pretty lengthy. I say, there are no doubt many faithful SBC churches and pastors. That is not what was being referred to in my video. I made it very clear that I was discussing the organization, those in denominational positions of authority over churches and conventions. I say that understanding that churches are technically autonomous, but they are still heavily influenced by local, state, and national associations. There is no denying how liberal all of the major entities of the SBC are based on the people in positions of power and what they openly state that they believe. That is different than conservative messengers that either don't make it to the convention because it is too expensive and time-consuming, or get completely shut down on the convention floor. Nobody in good faith can watch any of the conventions and come away believing that the messengers have fair treatment. The platform controls the meeting and shuts down those who oppose their agenda. Resolution 9 in 2019 was the greatest example of that for the world to see. And no, embracing CRT and intersectionality is not a minor issue or dead issue. It has taken over the seminaries and is producing racist pastors who will go pastor churches or plant new ones and tell those in their congregations that have been redeemed by the blood of Christ that they are racist purely because of the lack of melanin in their skin. Not because of any behavior, attitude, or deep-seated hatred of a people group. That's called the sin of partiality, James 2, and needs to be eliminated from institutions. I watched the entire presentation by the ERLC, and it was very disturbing that they don't believe murderers should be held accountable for their sin. They believe that the perfect infrastructure should be put in place so that women find that abortion is unnecessary. They call murderers victims. We don't call murderers of 1-year-olds victims. We don't call murderers of the elderly victims, at least not yet. That will be in the future of the ERLC, the way that they are headed. We don't call murderers of 20-year-olds victims. So, no, they do not believe in the equal protection of the unborn. Equal protection would mean that they believe that the life of a baby in the womb is equal in value to the life of a baby or any human life of any age, and should be protected in the same way. It is made illegal with equal penalties under the law. The ERLC and, unfortunately, other supposed pro-life organizations clearly oppose the criminalization of murderers. This was the bold section in the letter to Louisianna and all other state lawmakers that they signed off on. So here it is. Here's the bold statement from that letter. Women are victims of abortion and require our compassion and support, as well as ready access to counseling and social services in the days, weeks, months, and years following an abortion. As national and state pro-life organizations representing tens of millions of pro-life men, women, and children across the country, let us be clear. We state unequivocally that we do not support any measure seeking to criminalize or punish women, and we stand firmly opposed to include such penalties in legislation. And I link to the full letter. And I'll put that in the description below. An organization, the ERLC, that views pregnant women who willfully end the life of the unborn babies in their womb who are created in the image of God as victims rather than murderers, who are in violation of the sixth commandment, Exodus 20, verse 13, is an organization that has compromised on biblical morality and is trying to make a quote-unquote pro-life stance more palatable to the world. Sadly, that is where much of the problem begins. It begins with the denominational leaders' desire to please the unregenerate haters of God in the world. This desire makes them compromise on biblical truths. James 4:4 comes to mind, which states, "Do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God." The ERLC is a bad witness for Christ and faithful churches in the denomination. It's disappointing that the vote was overwhelmingly against abolishing the entity. CRT is definitely not dead, but I don't have time to get into all of that right now. Just do a search for CRT at SBC seminaries, and you will find days worth of material to read. You don't have to believe what you read from bloggers, but you can't deny original sources. Here is one of the first things that went viral in 2019 from Southern professors Curtis Woods, Jarvis Williams, and now Provost Matt Hall teaching CRT. And I'll link that below as well if you haven't seen that. It's like a 6-minute video of CRT being espoused at the seminary. It is rampant in the seminaries. Class notes have been released, etc. It is definitely a major issue and can't seriously be denied as an issue. I don't doubt the room you were in at the convention was filled with believers who love the Lord. I don't doubt that the room wasn't filled with many faithful pastors, leaders, and other servants of God. But the problem is the entity leaders direct the steps of the denomination, and the platform controls what happens at the convention as much as possible. I don't know all of the bylaws at the meeting, nor did I claim to in my video, but I observe how controlled the meeting seems to be. It's that type of control by the platform that leads to force-fed resolutions like Resolution 9, which was a watershed moment in recent SBC history. My commentary on the SBC swinging hard to the left is not a commentary on faithful churches and convictional Christians. Rather, they are messengers that are they are the messengers that are putting the brakes on the direction of the denomination. I'm grateful for faithful pastors and churches in the SBC, but this is not the time to ignore issues of biblical fidelity that are seen in broad daylight. Also, I would love to see a great turnaround in the SBC, but it would require fighting the major issues that are destroying the denomination: CRT, feminism, and other less talked about issues. For those that want to stay and fight, God bless you. Hopefully more conservative messengers will make it to New Orleans. But know what the issues are that are truly at stake. Denying the issues will not fix the problem. And that was completely ignored. But hopefully the point was taken. And maybe someone reading it will watch the videos and be informed. There were other comments made. I disagree. I think our seminaries and missionaries are worth contending for. And they talked about just how few people are represented. And that's just, that's another point made of kind of this rigged system, really. I mean, it is in place so that only 7%, yeah, that's what it says down there, 7%. It's a very small percentage of churches even represented. And the churches that get represented are the liberal churches by and large. Even though, there were many conservative messengers and there were many conservative. We should just say biblical. We have to say conservative now, but it just means biblical. But there were many biblical messengers that were hitting hard with their questions. They had some very good questions and good motions, but many of them were shut down. If the motions made it to resolutions, those resolutions did not, they failed. And so this is kind of the direction that the SBC is going. I know people have hope for New Orleans, that, maybe more conservative biblical Christians will make it out, and there might be some wins in New Orleans. But the reality is, you've got major positions, like those that are controlling the entities, those that are in positions of authority, are all, basically every one of them are somewhat woke, are liberal leaning, and you've got serious issues to turn around. And so it just doesn't seem like something that, as an average sized church, if you're pastoring an average sized church, what can you do, really? You can send a few messengers to a convention that is very much controlled by the platform. And so, like, if you're in the denomination to fight, God bless you, but it seems like a wasted effort. It seems like the effort could be put into better things, like building up good networks. So churches that are going to be faithful to God's word and fear God more than man, and aren't trying to make friends with the world and look good to the world in every area, but rather care more about being faithful to God's word. If you can get churches like that together and network them together, just so that we can work together in some way, time and effort is much more valuable to put into something like that than to saving this denomination. But I do think that this kind of demonstrates the thinking along SBCers, and I would say that that's basically that's something that's something to think about. There are many faithful pastors in the SBC. There are many that just want to ignore this. There are many that want to act like it's not happening. And, there are areas that it is really hard to find non-SBC churches. Like, most of the churches around are SBC. You're in SBC land. I know, because I'm in one of those areas. Like, most of the churches around are SBC. And so it's hard to figure out exactly what to say to people that are wanting to turn around the SBC, or just at least to stay in the SBC. But faithful churches need to find each other. They need to find each other. And there are good networks out there, at least for looking for a church. Founders Ministry is a good place to go look for a church. I think it's a pretty good starting point. G3 Ministries, you can go and look for a church on G3. You can go, John Harris of Conversations That Matter has discerningchristians.com, and that's a place to look for a church. So there are some networks out there, but we need more. We need more resources for faithful churches and faithful pastors and faithful laymen. So that's what I'm ending with, is we need to build more. We need to build up ways in which faithful Christians can connect with each other, network with each other, fellowship with each other, because we're living in the days in which the majority of churches have gone far away from biblical teaching. So that's what's going on right now in the SBC. That's some of the way in which people think. They're just denying what's going on or ignoring what's going on. But we can pray that faithful pastors, faithful leaders, faithful churches, faithful Christians can find each other, connect with each other, and fellowship with each other. Because we're certainly going to need that as persecution ramps up. Well, God bless you, and we'll see you next time.